You don't know?
Okay. Hi, parents. Good evening. Welcome to our back to school night school reopening event. We're calling it a couple different things. My name's Mrs. Alcazar. I'm the principal here at Castle Rock. It's my pleasure to welcome you here this evening. I know I speak for everyone when I say we sure do wish that we were welcoming you in person. But given the circumstances, this is the safest avenue for all of us. So for those of you who are new to our school and just joining us, to our families in TK and kindergarten, or maybe some of our transfer families, a super warm welcome to you. And we do look forward to the day when we can greet you in person and really, really get to know you. But if you're just joining us in TK, you've got a few years to go. So we have plenty of time for that. So thank you for being here. This evening, I found this quote and I thought this is a pretty good quote to share from Dr. King. The idea of we need to be able to adjust, we need to be vigilant, we need to face the challenge of change. And that is never more true than what's going on right now. So I want to assure you that we have been hard at work all summer long, preparing for the first day of school. So this evening is our opportunity to share some of those things with you, and then for your teachers to share some of those things for you at another time. So again, probably not our first choice of venue or forum, but we sure are glad that you're here. So thank you. Our agenda this evening is we're going to start, and we're in the welcomes part, obviously, and then we're going to go into introductions. I do have a couple panelists here with me. And we're then going to go into the distance learning expectations. You have been receiving information from our district office, from our amazing superintendent, Dr. Taylor, and many of our staff up at the district level. And they have shared quite a bit with you. So I'm going to reiterate some of the things that they've shared, and then also give you a little bird's eye view more so into what's happening at Castle Rock. So we'll go into those instructional schedules as well. We're going to share how you can get help because we're definitely all going to need some help. And then how you can help us. And then we will have time for questions and answers at the end. If you could just save those questions until the end, and then you may type them in the chat, the Q&A as we go. I do have a couple monitors watching the Q&A, and so they will be jumping on and able to respond to some of those, or they'll be passing some of those over to me. So let's jump right into introductions. Again, my name's Jen Alcazar, principal here. This is my 25th year in education. That's really hard to believe. I spent 19 years in the classroom as a science teacher and a technology coach, and then I was an assistant principal at Chaparral here in Walnut Valley, and this is my third year here at Castle Rock, and I love it here. And then also joining us tonight is we have a wonderful new elementary learning specialist, or ELS, and her name is Frances Baird. So I'd like to give the floor to Mrs. Baird to just greet you and tell us a little bit about herself.
Hi, Castle Rock family. My name is Frances Baird, and I am just thrilled to be joining your community as your new elementary learning specialist. I spent the last 3 years actually right down the street at Evergreen Elementary as their 4th grade teacher, and actually a kindergarten teacher as well. But this is my 13th year in education, and I am just so excited to meet all of you, to meet your students, and to support your children as they continue to grow and develop as students in our district.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Baird. We're so stoked you're here. So welcome. And we're going to put you to work. So don't worry. Next up, we also have joining us Mrs. Howard, Kelly Howard, and she is our IB coordinator. And for our new families joining us, IB is for International Baccalaureate. So I'd like to give the floor over to Mrs. Howard to say hello and say a little bit more about herself and her role.
Hello, Castle Rock friends and family. It's so good to be back to another school year. Even though this year may look a little bit different, we're very excited. And this is, I think I'm going on my 20th year at Walnut Valley. So I love Walnut Valley. I love our family here, and I'm so glad that you're a part of it. And as Mrs. Alcazar said, we are an International Baccalaureate school. We will continue to help our children with those IB learner profile attributes and attitudes and help them develop agency this year as they are becoming very independent through distance learning. So I would be happy to answer any questions. You can always email me if you have any questions about IB.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Howard. And I forgot to mention that my own kids came through Castle Rock. And so I am pretty familiar with the IB program, both as a, your principal, but also as a parent. So it's a really neat opportunity for our kids to grow in their attributes, risk-taking and showing empathy and being good communicators. And also really becoming more independent. We want our students to really become those independent learners and advocate for themselves. And so lots of opportunities for that, and not to fear, we will continue to foster that through distance learning. So thanks, Mrs. Howard. We're just going to dive right in here. Before we get going, I'd like to make sure that everyone is checking on those school newsletters that I've been sending out. I do send them by email, and lately I've been also texting to let you know that there's one sitting in your email, because with distance learning, I don't know about you guys, but we are getting a lot of emails. So I am just trying to alert you to the fact that those newsletters are coming. Some of you have been replying and saying, hey, I'm not getting the newsletter. I'm not getting your emails. If that's the case, number one, definitely contact our office and we can try to figure out what the problem is. We probably just don't have your email in the system. Number two, you can go to our website, which is castlerocknights.org, and you can click on the Parents tab. And then the very first tab underneath it says Weekly Newsletters, Updates for Parents. And I archive all of our newsletters there, going all the way back to the very first one in the spring. This newsletter, normally I send them out Sunday night. However, with the shortened timeline of getting ready for school, you did receive one last Friday, the 31st. A lot of important information in there. And clearly you went to it because you're here tonight. And that's how you found the link. So thank you for checking those. But if you're new and you haven't seen them, they look like this. And as I say, a lot of really important information in there. So please make sure, I know I tend to be a little verbose sometimes and they're a little long, but go ahead and skim them and refer to them because there's a lot of good information in them. Okay, so let's go ahead and dive right into our distance learning expectations. First, I want to reassure you that what we're doing starting day one on Monday, it's hard to believe it's here, is distance learning, but we're calling it distance learning 2.0. In the springtime, we literally had to evolve in 48 hours to go distance learning. And so there were some almost like emergency procedures that we had to put in place for distance learning. And that was great. Our teachers moved mountains and made heroic efforts to meet the needs of our children in the spring. But we know that it could have been better. So what we're going to be doing now in the fall is we are doing enhancements to our distance learning, and that's what we're going to talk about tonight. So the model will not look like the one that you saw in the spring. It's different. In terms of some expectations, we learned a lot from our experiences in the springtime. And one of the things we learned is sometimes our kids don't like to put their cameras on. Especially our little older kids, our fourth graders, our fifth graders. maybe because they have messy hair or they want to eat their cereal or whatever. But that really was hindering the learning. So our first expectation is that student cameras need to be on. If you have a device at home that does not have a camera feature or does not have a webcam, by all means, please borrow a device from us. If your child is working on an iPad, by all means, or a phone, please borrow a device from us. iPads and phones are great for playing around and having fun, working on apps, but they're not great for distance learning. We find that kids really need keyboards. So if you need a device, I will put an email up at the end where you can email and you can request a device, and no worries, we'll get one to you. So student cameras need to be on. That's the first thing. We also need to make sure that our kids are working in an appropriate space and they're wearing appropriate clothing. I know that you'll find this hard to believe, but some of our kids really liked to stay in their pajamas and lay in their bed for distance learning in the spring. That won't be allowed in the fall. So we want to make sure it's a school day. So we want to make sure that our kiddos are up, they've had their breakfast, they have appropriate clothing on, they're sitting up at a table or a desk, and they're ready to learn. We will be resuming regular attendance and grading procedures. So teachers will be taking attendance every day, and students will earn grades, regular grades. And if your child, for example, the camera's not on and we can't tell that they're there, we can't hear them, we can't see them, then the teacher will mark them as absent. So please make sure that they're engaging and they're participating, we can see them. If your child is absent 3 days, we're concerned. And so we'll be reaching out to you directly to help re-engage your child to figure out what's going on. How can we help you? Because we know it's not easy. I mean, we've been struggling with some of this technology. We know that the kids are going to struggle with some of this technology as well. So we will reach out and ask, how can we help you? There's a very important piece of education code that says students may not record without the teacher's permission. So we want to make sure that there's no recording going on of the classroom. Also, please don't make any social media posts. And I know that's hard. And I have to admit, I did that in the spring. I didn't really know. They're a really cute science experiment. Take a picture, we post it to Facebook and we don't want to do that again because of student privacy rights. So let's make sure we're not doing that. And then if you happen to be walking by your child's workspace and you hear some information from class about another student, we want to hold that information private. Please don't collect or discuss information about any other students in the classroom. Of course, we're going to enforce appropriate behavior as we always do. And then in terms of what is your role as a parent, we want you to help your child get online, to assist your child with getting online, no problems with any of that. But we don't want you to sit in class with them. The virtual sessions are designed for the students. So if you want to just keep the door open so you can kind of supervise your child, but don't worry, the teacher's got it. So those are our kind of ground rule expectations. And obviously the little guys, our TKs and our Ks, they're going to need a little more support in the beginning. Totally understandable. But then we want to really work on that independence as much as we can. So at Castle Rock, we have two instructional schedules. We have for our TK and our kindergarten students, for all of our grades, let me correct myself, all grades, school starts at 8. That's a little different, right? We're used to school starting at 8:15 or 8:20, but in the interest of aligning schedules across the entire district for our families who have a child in elementary, middle, high school, we wanted to standardize opening times for everyone. So for everyone, school starts at 8. Then all of our grades will have some sort of opening activities, and these will be live. We will be taking attendance. We will be doing opening activities, calendar things. There's various routines that the teachers will do with your children, and they'll be sharing that with you. More specifically, your child's teacher will share that with you. Then after that, we have what are called instructional blocks. and we have blocks of time. For TK and Kinder, it goes from 8:30 to 11:30, so 3 hours. And then for first through fifth, 8:30 to 12:30. And during those instructional blocks, we will provide instruction in math, language arts, and science social studies, depending on the day. Those instructional blocks, each instructional block will have a combination of live instruction and offline instruction. There will be a combination of whole group and small group instruction, hence the offline piece. So for example, if it's the math block, I might teach a 20-minute lesson to the whole group. And then I might send the class off to work on an assignment while I pull in 5 children to work with me in a small group to go over that lesson in finer detail. Then those 5 will exit, I'll pull in the next 5. So you can expect to see your child live in whole group and in small group, and then also doing some independent work, and that's for each of those blocks. Then we have lunchtime. And then after lunchtime, and for Kinder's, lunchtime is at 11:30, for the big kids, 12:30. And then after that, we go into what's called our support and tutorial time. And we will talk a little bit more about that. So I think I got ahead of myself. So during the instructional blocks, daily live instruction, you'll see some independent practice. You'll see whole group and small group. You'll see teachers checking for understanding in a variety of ways, maybe with whiteboards or hand signals. And then you'll also see some community building. We want to build relationships with our kids. In the springtime, we have the relationships established. Right now, we're gonna be building them through distance learning. But don't worry, we know we can, because I know a lot of people who meet their spouse online. So we know that you can build relationships online. So don't worry, we got this. All right, during the student support and tutorial time, that's that time after lunch. We want our kiddos to go. We want them to have a good lunch. What then happens when they come back? There's a variety of things that can happen based upon the needs of our children. We know that our kids are not one size fits all. We know that they don't all need the same level of support. So teachers may call students back for more instruction. I may think, you know what, they didn't really get that math lesson. Okay, guys, I want to see you back in my Zoom at 1:30. They might call them back. They may do intervention work. They may call back just one group and spend more targeted time with a child. Or maybe your child is learning English and we want to pull them back to work with one of our bilingual aides. We may provide more enrichment work. They're excelling, they need a little more challenging work, so we can provide that. We have socio-emotional learning lessons that our elementary learning specialists are going to be providing 3 times a week. And that's really important because we know that a lot of kids are stressed out right now. And so we want to help them with that. We have, in addition to our bilingual aides, we have more support staff who will be working with our children. Maybe your child works with a speech therapist, or maybe they work with the school psychologist, or maybe they'll have a special session with Mrs. Baird. She's working on something, or maybe our school counselor, Mrs. Ma. There's also time built in so that teachers can collaborate. We do have a little time built in, 1 hour a month for staff meetings, and we have some time built in for teachers to prepare, because that's another thing we learned in the springtime is we worked pretty long hours answering emails until late into the night. So we need to give our teachers time to answer your emails, phone call you back. So that will be happening as well during those times. We also offer pull-out classes, depending on your child's teacher and grade level. We will have Spanish, we will have computers, we will have PE. If your child's in 4th and 5th grade, we will have music classes. So all of those pull-out classes can also occur during that time. So is your child's day over at 12:30? Nope. They get a lunch break and then they're back with us. And that tutorial runs until 2:30. Okay. All right, so what comes next? Your teacher, if they have not done so already, will contact you directly through your email with classroom joining information. Many teachers today have shared with me that they have sent those emails already, and unfortunately they haven't heard back, or they've sent Google Classroom codes and the children haven't signed up for the Google Classrooms. So I urge you to check your email, check your junk mail, make sure that you don't have an email from your child's teacher, because you're going to need that information so that you can be live and online at 8 o'clock Monday morning. I needed to update my slide. We do have times that have been designated to pick up materials that your child will need for instruction. We're going to be passing out textbooks, whiteboards, work packets, etc. All of those pickup materials, I believe I sent them yesterday in an email. I can go ahead and I will send those again, but those pickups are starting tomorrow and they're running through next week. We ask, if possible, to please, please, please come during your designated time. And that's for two reasons. Number one, it's a lot easier for us if you're there at the correct time, because we only bring out one set of textbooks at a time. And number two, many, many, many of our teachers will be out there during their designated times. So they really want to meet the kids. So if you come at the wrong time, your child may miss out on the opportunity to just wave to their teacher and say hello. Additional back to school night information. Usually, we would go to the classrooms and the teachers would share, we do this many minutes of silent reading. We do, these are the standards we're going to be covering. This is my grading system, etc. The teachers will provide you all of that information. Many of them, and it's a variety of formats. Some teachers are doing Zoom meetings. Some teachers are putting together PowerPoints that we'll be posting. Some are creating videos. So again, check your email just to make sure that you haven't missed anything. But all of that back to school night information will also be posted on our school website by August 28th for your review. But I am fairly certain you'll have it before then. Okay, so what if we need help? What do we do? This email is your bread and butter. Write it down. wvhelp@wvusd.org. If you email that, I forgot my password. I need to reset my child's password. We need a device. We're having a really hard time navigating. We're having a hard time finding the teacher. We're having a hard time finding the Zoom. That can help. You also can call that number. That's the number to the district office, and ask for the technology department. You also can call our office and speak to Miss Melody or Miss Barbara, and we will assist you in any way that we absolutely can. I also encourage you to visit learn.wvusd.org and click on the Distance Learning tab. There are a number of tutorials on there that are not for the kids, they're for you. And it'll teach you how to use Google Classroom. And not because we want you doing your child's homework. Please don't do your child's homework. But we do want you to be able to help them get on there. So check out those tutorials, and they'll be helpful to you. I'm confident of it. And then again, of course, you can always contact your child's teacher. You can email me on my newsletter. There's a way to email through my newsletter. You can contact the office. As a matter of interest, our email addresses are now shortened. You don't have to type all those terrible letters and numbers, K-12, CAUS. Now all of our email addresses end in wvusd.org. But don't worry, if your phone has the old one saved, the K-12 from before, we're still receiving mail from those as well. So don't worry. Okay. I would like to give the mic over to our ELS, Mrs. Baird, so that she can share with you how you can support your child.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I first wanted to thank all of you for the really great questions in the chat. If I am not getting back to you quickly enough, I apologize. I'm trying to type back as quickly as I can. And we are going to print out these questions as well. So if we don't get back to you tonight, we'll definitely answer these questions on our website or make calls as need be. So we're thankful you're here and part of this presentation with us. So thinking about how you can best support your child at home, I know is a question that I'm asking myself. I have a second grader at home and I'm always wondering, okay, what can I do to support him to make sure that he is learning in the best environment? I want to make sure I'm doing my job right as a parent. And so one of the first things that we really encourage our parents to do is create an optimal learning environment. And what I mean by that is, when you are thinking about where your student or students are going to be working, because I know some of you are going to have more than one student at home, it's good to have them in a place where you can check in on them. Or perhaps we have a grandparent at home or an older sibling at home. So you want them in a space where they can kind of check in on them, but we want them to be independent. So if we're thinking about a typical home, perhaps one student's at the kitchen table, one student is in the office or in an extra room that has some open area. That way you have access to support them as need be, but they feel like they have their own personal working space, because we do want to try and mimic the classroom as best as we can. We also want to make sure that there isn't a lot of external noises. So thinking about dogs or close to the street, if there's a lot of noise. Again, we're trying to support our students to learn best. And thinking about my own experience with my son, my husband, works from home. And so we make sure to put my husband in the office with the door closed so he's not distracted by the noise. And then my son's not distracted by my husband's phone calls. And I'm sure we can relate to that we all have things to do. I know a lot of us are working from home. And so we want to make sure that we're supporting our students to be focused during their class time. Also, encouraging routines and expectations from learning from home is really important. So thinking about my own family again, because we're all in this together, right? With my own son, we make sure that there's a consistent waking time so that he gets up just like a normal school day. He gets on his regular clothes, just like Ms. Alcazar said. We want to make sure they're not wearing their pajamas, that they're wearing their regular school attire, that they are having breakfast ready for the day, ready to learn, and that they go to their typical learning place, that they have their supplies ready to go. We're going to try very hard with the classes to be consistent with our own classroom expectations and routines. And so we're hoping that you'll partner with us and do the same thing at home so that your child gets into the habit of getting ready to learn and being excited for the day. And then also it kind of trickles into the evening when the day is done and they kind of close that Chromebook, close that computer, and they can take a deep breath, find things for them to do outside or in the backyard, things away from the monitor so that they can refresh and they can kind of take a deep breath from that focus of learning throughout the day. And then also be mindful of their bedtime routine, making sure that you're doing all those things that you would have typically done during the school year, a reasonable bedtime to ensure that they are getting the rest they need to be successful the next day. Another suggestion that I think can be really beneficial for you, especially for those who are working, and I know most of us are so busy during the day, finding a time either at the beginning of your day or the end of the day to check in with your student about their learning can be so helpful to build that connection with your child. So when they start the day, okay, what are you excited about? What did you learn about yesterday that you're hoping to continue today? Or at the end of the day, what did you do today? How was music class? How was PE? I saw you dancing down the hall. What were you doing? Tell me about it. So finding ways to be engaged in their learning. One really cool thing about this experience is that you actually can hear at times what your students doing or see them doing their PE exercises. And hopefully those things can be a starting point for great conversation. And again, encouraging exercise and physical activity, going for a bike ride at the end of their day, walking down the block. If you're in a neighborhood, you're able to do that, taking the dogs for a walk, going in the backyard. I know with my own kids, I have them run laps in the backyard just to get them moving so they're able to still have that physical activity, even though they're sitting at their desk for most of the day. And I think one of the most important components that you can advocate with your own child at home is encouraging your child to be independent. And that can be done really at any age. And we are so aware and definitely want to support you, especially with the younger students, our TK and K students. We know that for many of them, this is their first year of formal education. But we are so confident, and we are so confident in our teachers that they are going to support your students, that they're going to create appropriate scaffolding so that your children know how to log in, they know how to access the websites, the different platforms they're going to be using. And so we certainly want you to feel comfortable supporting your children, logging in those first couple of days, helping them navigate the websites and their supplies. We also want to encourage you to slowly let them take the reins, to slowly let them feel like they are independent and they are responsible for getting out their Chromebook. They are responsible for getting out their supplies, for getting their workspace ready, because they can do it. I am so confident. We are so confident in your students. And of course, at any time, if you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to contact your child's teacher, contact myself or Mrs. Alcazar if you have any other questions. But again, we are excited for this opportunity. We're excited to support all of you, and we're just excited for this upcoming school year. So thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you, Mrs. Baird. That's awesome. I love that she shared her experience that she has a second grader. So she's going through it too. And I have two in college now, completely online. And I have to admit that when my college student, she took summer school at UCI, she's a math major, mutes her camera and mutes her microphone to make scrambled eggs during her lectures. I don't know that that's a great idea, but she is 20, so I try to stay out of it. But in that vein, one thing that we did see in the springtime, I really like how Mrs. Baird talked about a regular bedtime. We had some students, unfortunately, who were trying to interact with their peers or online at Google Classroom or chatting at 11:30 at night, midnight. That's way too late. And so really important for us to be reinforcing those proper bedtime routines so that they are ready to go first thing in the morning. So thank you for bringing that up. That's a great tip. All right, so we have come to the portion where we start to address some questions here. So Miss Howard and Mrs. Baird are going to help me here. Ladies, you are welcome to answer a question directly, or if it's for me, just tell me it's for me. So fire away, ladies.
Thank you. One question that came up frequently, thinking specifically about our new students and our kinder and TK students, the question of how do students log in with the Chromebook device? I believe I did post it publicly, but if I did not, for all the new parents, welcome. And if you received and picked up your Chromebook today, their login ID is going to be their lunch ID number, which you can find on Aries. The password does vary by class. And so at this point, to my understanding, teachers have not set passwords for our younger students, but they will begin that process. I'm confident when they do your back to school night or the emails, they will provide you with information. But if they do not at any point, feel free to contact them and ask them for that password.
That's an excellent response. I agree. The technology department does set a default password for the children, but it's pretty complex. So the teachers, I know, as Mrs. Baird said, are in the process of resetting those to something that's a little more simple. So you will hear from the teachers about that. Again, if you don't hear from them, as Mrs. Baird said, reach out to us again.
We also have a question. Is there a list of school supplies needed for first graders on the website?
Yes, there is. There is under our news tabs, news categories, there is suggested supply lists for each grade level. And they're also embedded in one of some of those newsletters that I sent out, but they are on the website. I want to remind you, though, that they are only suggested. We never require students to have anything, but we suggest it would be easier for them if they have this item or that item. But yes, you can find those in the news section of our website.
Okay, we also have a question. There's been several questions about communicating with teachers and what form that will take, whether that will take the form of Class Dojo or phone calls. And my best suggestion would be to the teachers, individual teachers will let you know their preferred form of communication. So they'll make a way of communication available to you.
Yes, and I would also like to stress, thank you, that's perfect. You always can call, but just like we wouldn't be able to answer the phone if we were in-seat instruction, we won't be able to answer the phone during in-seat, well, that's not in-seat, but it is live instruction. So if you choose to phone call and leave a voicemail, please understand that the teachers will not be able to return that call until their preparation time, which falls in the afternoon when the children are in Spanish, PE, etc.
There were also quite a few questions regarding supply pickup. We will be having minimum day on Monday. So all of the supply times, pickup times will not interfere with regular class time. They will either be after the minimum day on Monday or after instructional time later that week.
Good point. Yes. And I did just say that we're going to have Spanish and PE and those kinds of things happening in the afternoon, but not to fear, those things don't start until week 2. So we did try to keep the afternoon pretty clear so that, because we know that you're going to be bringing your child with you to drive through and pick up those materials. So they will not miss out on anything when you come to pick up those supplies.
Okay, and Mrs. Alcazar, I think this is a question for you. It says, if the determination is eventually made to allow in-classroom learning during the school year, will parents continue to have an option to remain fully in distance learning?
That's a great question. And so let me preface it by saying our deepest desire, our greatest desire is to bring our children back in the safest way possible. As you know, we follow the guidelines of LA County Public Health. And right now, the guideline has been set by our governor that we would not be allowed to bring children back to any form of in-seat instruction, whether it's whole class or half class, et cetera, until we have 14 days of declining COVID cases across the entire county of Los Angeles. As you can imagine, that might take some time, and it's consecutive days. However, let's say we hit that magical 14th day and we have declined to the point where we can bring children back. You, yes, would still have the option, if you're uncomfortable with that and you want to have your child remain in distance learning, you may do that. And that's what that survey was for, I believe, over the summer. We filled that out. And you're not alone. We have quite a few families who have indicated to us, yes, I would prefer to keep my child either longer in 100% distance learning or even for the entire year. And we respect your choice in that matter, and we will make accommodations for that.
And a few questions that have come up regarding independent study. Perhaps if a parent is concerned that they cannot support their child at home, that would be a better option for them, or if they are just interested in if that is an option.
Okay, so great question. So independent study is not designed for long-term. Independent study is governed by education code and board policy. So there's a couple caveats here. Number one, your child may not go on independent study if they have not attended school that year. So for example, I can't put your child on independent study starting day 1. That's against ed code. So they would have to attend the first day of school. And then I could put them on independent study if you needed that, but it's for a maximum of 20 days, 20 school days. So it's really designed for a child, grandma is ill, we need to travel overseas, we need 10 days of work. So independent study is not a replacement option in the long term for distance learning.
Okay, we have a question here about login. What is one main website for students to log in to begin every day? Website address. So our learning management system is Google Classroom. So your child will go to Google Classroom to log in, and every teacher will have their own Google Classroom. So they will be communicating that login information to you.
So to get to Google Classroom, you just open up your web browser, you go to classroom.google.com. The only exception to that will be for our TK and our kinder students. Google Classroom is a little too advanced for them at this point. So they will be using an app called Seesaw, or a website called Seesaw, and your TK and kinder teachers will share that information for you, with you before the first day of school. But for the rest of our students, Google Classroom, again, it's classroom.google.com.
There have been a few questions regarding materials or specifics as to homework, and those specifics will come from your teacher. They will, if they haven't contacted you yet, it is on their agenda. They are working so hard to get everything ready for your students on Monday. So they should be contacting you by tomorrow. If they don't, feel free to give the school a call or contact us directly. But they will go over all of those specifics per class, as that does vary, because we, as you know, we have different age groups, and the homework and the requirements are all going to look a little bit differently.
I see Mrs. Baird scanning those Q&As. Good job, Mrs. Baird.
There was one question, and it's in there somewhere, and it was because I think you can answer it. They had a Chromebook, and I'm sure there's more than one family like this. They had a Chromebook over the spring, never had a chance to return it. Should they hold on to it, or should they get reassigned a new one?
So if you have a Chromebook from the spring, hang on to it. The only exception to that would be if you're one of my middle school friends watching this and you've gone up to 6th grade and you still have my Chromebook, I want it back. That's the only exception. But if you have a Chromebook from the spring, go ahead and hold on to it. Some families in the spring checked out one Chromebook and have 2 children. Oh, we'll share it. We don't recommend that. So if you have 2 children, you're going to need 2 devices. Keep the spring one, check out another one. And it's very much like a textbook. We check it out just like we check out a library book or a textbook. We keep track of it, and we will make sure that we get those back. But also, please monitor the use, because parents, of course, would be liable for any substantial damage to the device. So we want to keep an eye on it.
In a variety of different ways, the question essentially comes down to, can the students receive the assignments and just do them? And we want to assure you this is very different from the spring. In the spring, we, as you all know, were in crisis mode. This was very abrupt, and our teachers worked very hard to do the very best, but this is going to look different, and we are doing live instruction. So you won't see a list of to-do on their Google Classroom or their Seesaw. Your child will be engaging in a live instruction. They'll have a textbook. When we do the material pickups, they're going to get their textbooks, they're going to get their whiteboards. It will look very different. So we won't be able to just hand out a to-do list, because we're hoping that your child will engage in the live lessons and treat, although they're in front of a screen, it will be very much like they are in a regular classroom.
Okay, Mrs. Alcazar, there's been several questions about internet failure. If for some reason their internet fails, or they're not able to log in on time or that day, what would you suggest parents do? Calling the office since they can't call the teacher during the middle of class?
Yeah, that's going to be the best option. In my own home, internet goes up and down and all around, depending on how many people are online at the same time. So we understand those issues are going to happen. So if you're concerned, oh, I don't want my child marked absent, we're here, we're trying, we get it. So call the office and let us know, that you're struggling with that. And then we will also deploy our tech team to help us try to figure out, how to solve your problem so we can get you online. So don't worry. It's kind of like, I guess, normally we get stuck in traffic trying to get to school. Now we're going to get stuck in internet traffic. So We'll roll with it. Don't worry.
And there
If the
will be a lot of flexibility especially at the beginning. We know there's difficulties. I was having technical difficulties tonight, right before we got on. So we understand that.
Today was the pickup for the Chromebooks. Are parents able to continue picking up if they were not able to come today?
Absolutely. Yes. Just email that wvhelp@wvusd.org and they can assist you. They have a bank of Castle Rock Chromebooks down at the district office. You wouldn't be able to come here to get them because they've already taken them from here. You would just go down to the district office to get them. But absolutely, you can still do that.
Okay, there's a few questions about logging on and off for lunch or breaks. There will be a common recess break at 10 o'clock, and of course for lunch as well. So that would be up to you and the teacher to decide. For our younger kids, if they have difficulty logging on and off, they could simply mute their mic and video and then come back so they don't have to worry about logging on and off.
And to add to that, and thank you, Mrs. Howard, that's exactly right. To add to that, again, your teacher will specify that depending on the age. And we've had lots of conversations with our teachers in the last couple of days about what's going to work best for their class because they're thinking very thoughtfully about their age group. They will articulate those expectations and those routines with your kiddos.
Okay, there was a question, if a student is not called upon to come back during the afternoon, are they required to log on or attend any of the sessions?
No. So yes. So it depends on. So I'm gonna try to understand the question. If the teacher has told them you have Spanish this afternoon at 2 o'clock, then yes, they need to go to Spanish. If the teacher says, "Hey, I want to meet with the yellow group because we're doing small groups, so we have yellow, green, red, whatever. I want to work with the yellow group at 1:30." Yes, come back. But if the teacher has given them some independent practice or independent work, that's what they should be working on. We don't want our kids doing homework until umpteen hours of the night. It's very tiring and rigorous to sit in front of a computer. We know that. We've all been experiencing that through the springtime. So if your child is called into various classes or support services in the afternoon, awesome. If they're not, use that as an opportunity to work on those some of those assignments that the teachers have been giving.
How often will minimum days be? I believe our minimum days have not changed. Is that correct, Mrs. Alcazar?
That's correct. When you did your Aries Parent Portal re-registration, and I hope all of you did, our handbook was part of that process, and our calendar was on there. But not to worry. Normally, I mail that out to you. I will do that. I will email it out to you. But it has all of our minimum days on the calendar, and all of those days are the same. We have not changed those. However, our bell schedule is different. To be family friendly to, again, our families with children at different levels, all of our days start at 8 and they end at either 11:30 or 12:30. And minimum days now, instead of dismissing at 11:20 or at 12 o'clock, our minimum days district-wide now run until 12:30. So Monday is a minimum day. We're used to getting out at 12, but your child will be involved in live instruction or online instruction until 12:30 because that is a district-wide decision that we'll all have that bell schedule now.
There are some questions regarding absences or late homework. And again, we're really trying to mirror this as a regular school year. So in a typical school year, when we're in person, if a child is absent, they are given grace to complete that work. Typically, if they're absent a day, they have a day to make it up, et cetera, et cetera. That's going to still hold true even though we're doing distance learning. And so if your child is sick and they're not able to log in, we want them to get better. We want them to learn best. And so take the couple of days to get healthy. Be sure to contact their teacher directly to let them know that they're sick so they can start to collect the schoolwork that they may need. And depending on the teacher, they may even be able to put it on Google Classroom for your child to access. They may be able to email you directly, or they may just say, don't worry about it, I'll get back to you when your child's feeling better. It's really going to vary on the teacher, but we certainly understand that kids still get sick even through distance learning, and we want them to get better.
Okay, there's a question about how many days a week will Spanish, computer, or PE be? Will there be music? So Spanish and computer will be 1 day a week each, respectively, and PE will also be 1 day a week. Music will be for 4th and 5th grade. And we do have some special programs, drama and music for 2nd and 3rd graders. Is that correct, Mrs. Alcazar?
Actually, we now have dance or drama for 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade.
Awesome. What if they have not received an email from their teacher yet regarding login for Monday? Should they wait?
Yes, so I gave my teachers the deadline of Friday, 5 p.m. We wanted all that sent by Friday, 5 p.m. And Mrs. Barrett already alluded, they're hard at work planning all their instruction, figuring everything out. So I'm sure it's on their to-do list. But yes, if you haven't heard by tomorrow evening, then go ahead and reach out to us and we'll help you out. Because we know that you need to be online 8 a.m. Monday morning. We get it.
There's a really great question regarding paper assignments that need to be picked up. That's going to vary by teacher and by grade. We know that many of our teachers are already hard at work creating packets and pulling out their math papers from our regular math curriculum or our benchmark advanced worksheets and booklets. And many of those things will be distributed on the pickup days. And the teacher will be contacting you and giving very direct instructions about collecting the assignments or whether or not you'll send in a picture via Google Classroom or Seesaw. But again, that information will be given to you by your child's teacher.
Okay, there's a question about the username and password for the Google Classroom. Will it be the same as last year? So as Mrs. Alcazar was saying, you'll go to Google Classroom and each teacher will provide a Google Classroom to join. Once they join, that tile will come up on the Google Classroom website link.
But I think, let me back up a little bit. If I understand the question, to log into, when you first go to classroom.google.com, you have to log in with your student account. Which our student accounts are the lunch ID. And so, yes, it's the same as last year. But then once you're in Google Classroom, you have to add this year's class because you'll probably still see last year's class sitting there. You'll have to add this year's class with the code that Ms. Howard is talking about.
Thank you for clarifying.
Mm-hmm. We have about 6 minutes. We want to honor everyone's time. So if you have a question, go ahead and get it in that box. And again, if there are more that need to be answered that we can't get to tonight, we will post maybe a frequently asked questions sheet on our website, etc.
One next question I think perhaps you can answer. Are there still after-school programs or clubs this year?
There are not. At this time, just with safety guidelines, we are not using any outside vendors, including even an online vendor. We're not sure that we can vet those properly. And so we're not using any of those. And then that also brings me to the question of classroom volunteers. Boy, oh boy, we miss you guys. We miss our parent volunteers. Unfortunately, right now, we cannot have volunteers on our campus. That's a big bummer because you guys are definitely our unsung heroes. So for right now, we're not canceling anything, we're postponing. So our room parents, our volunteers, all of that process is postponed until we're allowed to safely bring all of those programs back. But trust me, we need you. So as soon as we can bring you back, we will. Visits to our office right now are by appointment only. Our office is locked. And so we do not accept walk-ups to the office. So if there's a pressing need or a pressing matter that you need to come to the office for something, you need to call and make an appointment. And we have digitized nearly everything. All of our enrollment processes, all of these things are now digitized just to prevent the need for you to have to come here, because we don't want to put you at risk or any of our staff at risk.
Okay, I have a question. If students are not able to attend all of the live sessions hosted by teachers, can they just complete the assignments designated for asynchronous learning?
No, so that's the short answer. There was an assembly bill that passed, AB 77, and it mandates daily live instruction. And the reason for that is because we want to provide a high quality instructional program as much as we can right now. And so your child really needs to participate in those live sessions. If there's a specific reason why they can't, please contact our office and explain what it is. But no, per that assembly bill, we're legally required, and your child is legally obligated to participate in live instruction.
I know we're almost out of time. There were a couple of questions in regards to lunch. Unfortunately, there was a request of an earlier lunchtime. Unfortunately, we are not able to make the time earlier, as this is a district-wide lunchtime. That's to ensure that students are able to pick up their lunch in a timely manner to get back to any tutorial sessions. And so we are keeping that consistent across the district. Also, you can add money to your account online. In fact, we're encouraging you to add money to your student's account online. But if for some reason that's not able to do that today and you forget, we are accepting cash and check at the pickup of lunch. And you can pay the employees that are working there, but we highly encourage you to pay online.
Mrs. Baird, can I jump in there on that as well? Thank you for asking that question. I realized I completely left that out of my presentation. Lunch pickup will be, everything is prepackaged, much like sack lunch. It will be in our front driveway during the specified lunch times. And again, Ms. Baird already explained why those are set standard across the district. This is what's helpful, I think, is if you have a child one in elementary, one in middle school, or even in high school, and you want to pick up lunch for all three of your kids, you don't want to go to all three different schools, you don't have to. You can come here and you can pick up your elementary, your middle school, or your high schooler's lunch all in one stop, or vice versa. You could go to Diamond Bar High and pick up. So as long as they're a child in our district with a lunch account, no worries, you can pick it up. Okay, so we are down to 6:59. So I know Mrs. Baird and Ms. Howard are going to make a note of questions that we didn't get to. We do have the ability to download a transcript of all of those, so don't worry, we will get those back to you. I would just like to sincerely thank you for your attendance this evening. Again, an hour is a long time to sit and listen to a talking head, so thank you for being here. Thank you for being a partner with us. Thank you for your grace and your empathy and your understanding. We love your kids. We miss your kids. We are doing everything in our power to ensure that they have as wonderful an experience as they can have. given the circumstances, and we are trying to make things as normal and comfortable for them. We are your partners. So these are our email addresses. Again, please note the .org extensions on the ends. Myself, Mrs. Baird, Mrs. Howard, and I have recorded this session, so I will post a link to the recording likely tomorrow. It takes a while for the technology end of it, but we will be posting this presentation and the link. So once more, we just thank you for your attendance this evening. We wish you all just healthiness and happiness, a wonderful start to the school year. It's memorable. We've never had one like this before. So just give our Knights a big hug, and we really look forward to seeing you all online or driving through to pick up items in the coming days. Thank you so much.
Thank you.